So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to call this, but today we are going to go over all of the news in the Premier League coming up next. What's up guys, and welcome to JNO United, bringing the best in football news, entertainment and games. And today we start a new series on the channel where I just talk football. Probably going to focus on the Premier League, but maybe we'll venture outside of the Premier League as I get accustomed to doing this. But as it's my first time, I'm just going to stick with the Premier League. And I've gone with a blue back screen, just thought I'd change it up. I was unfolding it, I thought why not. But before we get into the news, if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe. We've just finished 30 days of FPL. There will be a link to that entire playlist for 30 days of FPL, along with another link for player analysis, which was part of that. But let's get right into the news. Sounded a bit Keemstar then. So before I get into any other news, I just want to first say rest in peace, Dalian Atkinson. You scored one of the goals that I will remember for a long time because it happened to come against my side, Wimbledon, at the time, where you literally, I think you run from before the halfway line and scored a ridiculously skillful goal, especially for back in those days. Unfortunately, he passed away today after being tasered by Telford police, I believe. From what I can tell from the news stories, he was slightly inebriated, maybe very inebriated, but I don't know the facts of that. This is just eyewitness accounts. And the police warned him that they were going to taser him if he kept advancing on them. He kept advancing on them, so they fired the taser. And because of those taser shots, he passed away. Now, I wasn't there and I work in security, so I know sometimes lines can be blurred. You sometimes in the heat of the moment make the wrong decision. I'm not going to pass any judgment on it. There's people who get paid enough to look at all the facts and do that. But I would just like to remember the player that was Dalian Atkinson. And if I can, I will put the goal on the screen right now.
He's going to get it away. Atkinson. Chance to see his skill and pace. Saunders outside him. Atkinson going through on his own. Saunders to his right, tries a chip. And that's a superb individual goal by Dalian Atkinson. That's a goal fit to win any match, and he salutes the crowd as well he may. Skill of the highest order by Dalian Atkinson, who rode a succession of tackles, spotted the keeper off his line, and then a superbly executed chip.
And that is how I'd like to choose to remember Dalian Atkinson. But on a lighter note, and on a note that I think could be a positive for both clubs involved, Yannick Bolasie has moved to Everton, or at least BBC Sport have announced that he's moved to Everton for 25 million. Now, I think that's a bit much for someone who scored 13 goals in 143 games for Palace. That's not the greatest return, but Bolasie is definitely a skillful player who could have a good impact at Everton. Kind of not sure if Everton needed Yannick Bolasie though. They've got Morales, they've got Deulofeu, they've got Barkley, they've got options up there. But obviously Koeman sees something there and wants to bring Yannick Bolasie in. And I think Palace need that money to get in a striker, because I think that's where they're weakest. I think they can manage without Bolasie, but I don't think they'll do very well this season if they don't get a goal scorer in. Now I know they're looking at Berahino and Benteke. I think Benteke could suit the Crystal Palace style quite well, especially if they play to Benteke's strengths, but we'll have to wait and see about that. But on to the scorelines, and the biggest scoreline of the weekend was Arsenal versus Liverpool. Arsenal went 1-0 up and then they found themselves 4-1 down. They had a spirited comeback and it ended 4-3. And I don't think we can take too much away from both sides from this, because I think if you look at Arsenal's defence, they were playing a very pressing game in the first half and then they got pressed in the second half. Holding and Chambers have not played together before, and I think in defence you need to have that understanding between each player. And also I don't remember any glaring mistakes, not any Moreno mistakes anyway. And I think when you've got the likes of Coutinho, Firmino, Mane, Lallana and Wijnaldum all running at you, you have to be a pretty damn good defence to be able to cope with them. And on the other hand, I think you can't judge too much Liverpool's defence on the game, because it became a game of just end-to-end football, teams throwing caution to the wind. So I don't think someone like Koscielny would have made a massive difference. I think it would still have been a high-scoring game. So I don't think you can hold too much against either side's defence. apart from Moreno, who made some glaring mistakes. And I think he's very fortunate that Liverpool won, so we're not talking about him as much as we would have if they lost. But the attacking football on display from both sides makes me believe that both sides will score a lot of goals this season, especially Liverpool. If those front 5 or 6 players they've got can gel, then they're going to be looking really good for this season. The other game on Sunday saw Man United beat Bournemouth at Bournemouth's home ground, and it was a good display. I just don't feel like it was a massive display that would make me believe that Man United are certainties for the title or top 2, purely because they didn't have as many chances as I would have expected them to have. It took them a while to score, and then the first 2 goals were very fortunate. Ibrahimovic's goal was very good, but Rooney's goal, it was fortunate to come to him in that position, and Mata's goal, it bounced around just the right way for Mata to have an easy tap in. So I think Bournemouth shouldn't worry too much. They put in a good performance, I think, and I think they will win enough games to stay up if we're just judging off of that performance. But I'm a bit confused about the strike partnership of Ibra and Rooney. They both like to play very deep, and at times it looked like neither of them were in the box. Now, if the likes of Martial and Mata and Lingard and Mkhitaryan cut in, then that could work. It wouldn't be something teams are expecting. So I'm still waiting to see how that all lines up for Man United. I think with Bournemouth, they didn't need to really get out of first gear. I think they coasted it, apart from a magic moment from Ibra and some lucky moments for the other 2 goals. So I still need to see Man United really tested. In big news from Saturday, Leicester City lost to Hull. On the one hand, Hull's performance was very spirited, 13 senior players, and they managed to beat last year's champions. Now, I think you could say that maybe their first goal doesn't always go in, but their second goal was definitely deserved. And Leicester just wasted the few chances they had. I'd have expected Leicester to get more chances against Hull. Vardy was really not to his clinical best. Their one goal came from a penalty. So I'm a bit worried with Leicester now, because I was expecting them to not be as strong defensively with Kante gone. But they didn't look like they were firing on all cylinders up front. And I believe Musa and Gray and Vardy, they're very, very similar. So I'm not sure that's going to work in a 4-4-2. I think they might be, as a threesome, better suited to a 4-3-3. They just felt like they were doing the same thing or in the same position a lot of that game. I'm hoping Mendy can fill Kante's shoes. I think they're not playing him yet because he might not be full fitness yet, so they don't want to risk it. But hopefully this isn't a sign of things to come for Leicester. There were a lot of draws and low-scoring games as well. Southampton with Redmond up front was definitely interesting to see. Tottenham and Everton exchanged good halves and ended up 1-1 as well. Middlesbrough-Stoke, Shaqiri had a great free kick, and Negredo got Middlesbrough their first goal of the season. And then in the 5 o'clock kickoff, we had Man City versus Sunderland. Man City scored really early, and I thought, here we go, lads. This is going to be a Man City whitewash. Then they just didn't really make any chances. Dominated possession, but didn't make chances. And if you don't make chances and you're playing a team with Jermaine Defoe, you're probably going to concede. And that's exactly what happened. Liverpool managed to slot a ball through to Defoe. And Defoe, he only had 2 chances, got both on target, and he scored one of them. Fortunately for City, Navas came on and looked quite good, as did Sterling, which is annoying because I don't like Sterling. But anyway, Sterling did really well and Navas did really well, drilled a ball in, and it came off new Sunderland defender Paddy McNair, own goal, so Man City get their win for the first game of the season, 2-1. It was very interesting to see Navas and Sterling have a good game. I was pretty confident that you'd be looking at Silva, De Bruyne and Nolito just behind Aguero, but with Silva playing further back, there's a slot open. And Nolito was taken off for Navas, and Navas had a great game. So wait and see what happens there. I'm not as confident that Navas and Sterling are going to struggle for their place in this first team. And it was also very, very interesting to see Sagna and Clichy's role in that fullback position. They were both coming into the midfield, like centrally, maybe to overpack the midfield and get bodies forward. And Fernandinho was dropping back, or was it Fernando? One of the two was dropping back and kind of making a back three. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves under Pep Guardiola. And anyway, guys, that wraps up today's episode of whatever I'm calling this. Tonight is West Ham versus Chelsea, which is going to be a big game for me. I'm going to sit down, make sure I've got a drink in hand, and hopefully watch West Ham win with an Eden Hazard hat-trick, because I need the points in fantasy football. But thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you like this new series. I'll come up with a name and a fancy intro at some point. But just wanted to get back on the channel because I've missed a day. You don't understand. After 30 days of FPL, Saturday live stream, not doing a video or uploading a video or having a video to look on my channel on Sunday felt strange, which is why I've rushed home, recorded this after looking up all the news and stats and so on and so forth. And hopefully I'll get this out on Monday, but if not, this should be out on Tuesday. And also out on Tuesday will be FPL Today, the second episode, looking back over the Fantasy Premier League Game Week 1. Make sure you tune in for that. I've been J&O, you've been awesome, and remember, it's all about the game.